Welcome to my stream, welcome to my channel, welcome to another video, another part working on our Fury tank. That one's by Tamiya, and Tamiya doesn't make it actually as a Fury tank, but they do make Sherman, and that's what we're doing. So I'll just load up that intro and we'll get going. So guys, as you can see here, I've got my tank here, I've got my coffee, and I'm almost awake, and we're going to do a little bit more painting today. We've got some details to do. You can see I've got a bunch of paints here on my desk. I'm going to paint the tracks, and that's kind of what I want to focus on today, but the tracks kind of is a long process because you do multiple layers of paint and you got to let each layer dry in between. So that takes time just because of the nature of it, okay? So I'm not going to get the tracks finished today, but I'm going to show you the start of them at least, okay? So the tracks that come in the kit, of course, they are rubber tracks and they're black. And as you can see in my hands, they are no longer black. So what did I do? I used Tamiya's AS27. Okay, this is Gunship Gray 2. Okay, basically any kind of a darker gray is what you can use. Doesn't matter. I think Uncle Night Shift he likes to use German gray. Doesn't really make a difference because we're going to be covering it, right? It's going to be covered up with rust and dust, dirt, mud, all that kind of stuff. The only reason why we do want it a dark gray is because in little areas where you can see through it, you want to be able to actually have it as a realistic base color, right? I'm going to move my little Sherman out of the way here because at this point I want to glue the tracks on. Now, these rubber tracks, they do glue together with your regular glue. I just want to kind of scrape away a little bit of the paint I put on here, so the glue can kind of get down in there, and just kind of make sure as these go together that it's going to actually glue the rubber. Okay, there we go, just a little bit. And what I do like to do is I like to use little clips just to keep them held together while that glue sets. Now you could start doing your rusting effects first before you glue. Doesn't really make a difference. I just want to have them glued and done. I don't want to have extra paint on those. And it will also help with the uniformity of when I put it there. When I'm painting across here, you're not going to tell, because if you do it like this, maybe I don't get my effects all the way to the edge. Maybe I don't. And then I go like this, and now I've got a bit of a gap that I need to touch up, right? I don't want to have to deal with that. So, yeah. So, I'm going to use my thicker stuff. I'll change the camera for you so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So as you see, I've just scraped off kind of in the middle there, right? So just take some of this, put it in there like that. Grab this and make a loop. Now the fact that the tracks are going to be a loop, that is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Now, and you want to make sure you press down on each one of these pins, right, and make sure they're all seated nice like that. And then I'll just put a clamp to help hold that while that sets. Okay. We'll do the same with this. So again, I'm just going to scrape this a little bit. Get rid of a little bit of layer or so of this paint. I only did 2 coats on this, not even a coat. I kind of did, sprayed it from one angle, turned my thing around, and then sprayed from another angle, and that's all I did. I wouldn't even say it's 2 full coats, a coat and a half maybe. There we go. Okay. There and there. Okay. To me, it does do a good job making these fit really nice. And I'll do a clamp. There we go. Let that sit. Okay. Coffee. I did just wake up like maybe half an hour ago, so I am still a little bit tired. But I wanted to get this going, and I want to get going on this. I want to get this going, and I want to get going. Yeah. And it shows you how awake I am. The next step in doing our tracks, using different layers of rust. I'll show you here. Okay, we're going to start with a light color, Light Rust Effects by MIG. This is just a wash, and that's basically why. Because we're doing a wash, it's going to take a long time to dry, right? And we're going to slowly work our way down to darker colors. Okay, I happen to use Vallejo's Mecha line. My darkest color is called Rust Texture. It's a 69.821. Next one down, Dark Rust Wash, 69.507. And our medium one is a 69.505 Light Rust Wash. Okay, so you can see on the bottom here the different colors. Okay, this of course being the darkest one. I might not even go this far with this one. I might just use these 3. Okay, I might just use these 3 and that's it. Now these 2 are kind of, and the look on the lid, it looks like it's, I always like to put the real color on the lid to get an idea of what it looks like, but yeah. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to use the super dark one. This one would represent like the oldest rust. I don't think our Sherman tank, I don't think our Fury was that old, so I'm just going to use these 3. Tamiya glue should be done now. I don't have these quite lined up, which is kind of a nice thing about rubber tracks, is if you don't have it perfect, you can fiddle around with them. Okay, here we go. So we have our rubber tracks. These aside. Now this step does get messy. Okay, so I'm going to get a fairly bigger brush, and I'm going to use the box from our kit. I'm going to put the tracks in my box. This. Okay, I'm going to change the camera because I can't do this on my bench. Okay, so I'm basically going to go around the whole track. Make sure this is, there's a lot of pigment that MIG puts in these. So I put a couple of bolts, well not bolts, but I put a couple of nuts. All of my paints that I have like this type of bottle, I use these little nuts. Right? I use these little nuts like this. Okay? Got a whole bunch of them. Just bought a bunch of them on eBay, or not eBay, on Amazon. Throw them in there, and they work really good as an agitator. Obviously, in my Tamiya paints, I use little metal balls. You can't put the balls in these types because of the tip on these. The ball would get stuck at the tip there when you try and pour it out, so that's why I don't use the balls on those. And with this guy, I use the nuts because they're big and heavy. And I actually got like 2 in this one. Now, like I said, this is just a wash. It's very thin, and we're just going to go over the whole track like this. I'll get the camera so you can see a little bit at least what I'm doing here. Okay, so we got that, and just kind of wash over it like this. You just soak the whole thing, right? Like that. This is a little awkward, so I'm going to put it back here so I can do it on my lap. Okay. I don't normally show you guys all this stuff for my painting, but I wanted to show you guys this part at least. I don't think our Sherman tank really had a lot of rust on it. You know, it was a museum piece, so used in the movie, so it didn't really have any realistic rust to it at all. I know there are some people who don't like these rubber tracks. The tracks get a lot of flack, but they're not as delicate as real working plastic tracks, or plastic tracks that you have to assemble. There we go. Okay, so we've got the inside, our first layer is done. Okay, I've got one length that doesn't want to stay together. Where they go. Okay, that's done. So basically, I gotta let that dry. I don't like what's going on with this track, how it's kind of separating here. But fortunately, when we put this on the actual machine, that'll flatten out. So that's not the end of the world. Okay. Unfortunately, with these tracks, you do get that almost like a pin mark where you join them. It's not very sightly. It doesn't look very good. But usually, you know, you get away with it because you hide it. You kind of put it in a spot where you're not going to see it. Such as up top, kind of in the middle, maybe underneath a fender, that kind of thing. Maybe as it goes around. And you can glue it more permanently, more stronger. You could use CA glue to really get it to stay in that shape you want. Okay, so our first coat is done. I want to do the outside of the track too, right? You got to do both sides. So I'm going to do that. The other one is that you're going to get paint on your fingers doing it in my method here. It's just nature of the beast. So I'm going to wash outside. Now the outside is a little more detail with all our treads and everything like that. So it's going to take a little more paint and a little more time. You know what I should do is get my other cameras going here, and you could actually watch me do this up close and personal. You do want to be a little bit careful. You don't want to splatter paint everywhere. You don't need to do that. You don't need to purposely make a mess, right? But that's up to you, really, if you care that much. Just doing a nice wash on this, making it all kind of a nice light orange color. There are other, you don't have to use these. You could mix up, if you had just a plain orange paint, just a regular orange whatever, thin it out, turn it into a wash, and just do that. For example, you could use, if you really wanted to do this quickly, and you wanted a paint that does dry nice and quick, using Tamiya, you could use this Tamiya straight up orange, thin it down, you know, maybe mix it with some white or whatever to make it a light orange. And you could just thin it out really thin and use it as a wash and do that on the track. And of course, Tamiya paints, being Tamiya paints, they're going to dry quickly, so you could do that, right? That's, you do you, man. It's your kit, your way. Up to you. I just happen to have these sitting in on my shelf, and you know, it's already pre-made and pre-done, and I'm not in a super hurry, so I don't care, and I can't continue on these tracks until tomorrow and do the next layer. That's fine. The whole idea is the next layer of orange we're going to be putting on here is a little bit darker, and we're not going to do quite as much of a coverage on it. We're going to do a little less, right? And that's going to give us that little depth and layers kind of thing. So here's an idea of what it looks like now. Okay, now it's all covered, right? Okay. As you guys already know, the color on my camera when I go to the overhead is not quite accurate. This looks more orange on the camera. It looks really yellow, but it's not yellow. You'll just have to trust me. In real life, it's orange. So yeah. So yeah, there you go. That's it. This is stage. I guess you could say this is stage 2, because stage 1 is painting the tracks gray. Honestly though, when you watch the Fury movie, or even you look at that tank in real life and those pictures from museums and stuff, and wherever that tank is being held at currently, that thing is dusty and dirty, and you can't tell what the original color of those tracks are at all. It's just covered in dust and dried dirt, right? They got that thing dirty in that movie, driving it through the mud like that. There's that scene where it's going through the mud and it's just caking on every part of the tracks. And yeah, there ain't no, you're not seeing any rust on that because it's just mud, right? But that's the way it was. I'm sure they got rusty just sitting on the boat over there to get over there to Germany at that time. We're almost done. One more little section here. Okay. Almost there. Last little bit, there we go. Okay, that's it. And I've got nice yellow fingers. Alright, so those get to dry. Let that dry. And put my lid on here. Might as well paint a little bit more on there so see what this color actually looks like. Okay. Alright, I gotta clean my fingers off here. And I gotta clean my brush. Stuff cleans up with lacquer thinner, just like just about everything else. I don't know if that stuff is enamel or a lacquer. I'm not sure. All I know is it cleans up with lacquer thinner, so. Okay, so that's, I mean, let's face it, I gotta let that dry, which pretty much means for the next at least half an hour or so, I'm not touching the tracks. So what else am I gonna do? Well, I'm going to put these aside because I don't need them right now. I took my little jerry cans and my helmets and I primered them black, so they are ready for some paint. I'm going to use my Tamiya olive drab XF62. Okay, fire up my air compressor here. We are going to paint these with Tamiya's olive drab, and that way they will actually look a little bit different on the tank, and they'll pop out a little bit instead of having everything just all the same olive drab color, right? It just doesn't look right. I do like the XF74 olive drab. So it looks a little more green. I might do that for the helmets. I just might do that for the helmet. But these are a little thick to spray right out of the bottles. So I'm going to add a little bit of thinner to them. I do that with all my Tamiya paints because even though I thin them out, if I do need to brush paint, they still work pretty good. They still work really good. To be brushed on, even though I've thinned them out. Now I don't know what the actual ratio is. I do about 50-50, right? And I add about half thinner to it and thin them out because the paint's usually about maybe halfway up the bottle, and I fill it up to about the neck, right? And Tamiya paints, for me, Tamiya paints almost spray out of the bottle, but not quite. They're just a little bit thick. They're not terrible. And so, to me, I don't need too much. I'll do my jerry cans first, and I'll do it with the XF62. So, let's do this. That ready. Brush. I like to take the tip off so the needle's just sticking out. That way it's easier to clean off the tip if I get some plugging up on the very tip there. Okay. Don't need a lot. I only got some jerry cans to paint here, so I don't need a lot of paint in my cup. I do, however, need to clean this off. I like to keep my threads clean on the jars and get a good seal when you close it back up. I'm just going to do the jerry cans, and I'll just do them kind of real quick here on my lap. And I don't have my other camera set up, so sorry about that. This will only take a minute or so just to do 5 sides of the jerry cans. It's the kind of thing that you don't want to go heavy with your paint on it. Too light coat, especially the first coat, just go light. You do want to get all angles on it though. Sometimes I find it's kind of hard to tell whether I'm actually getting these flat paints that I use so much of. It can be hard to tell whether I'm getting a good coverage until the coat starts to turn a little wet. Anyway, so I've got my dark green jerry cans. You can see on the smaller camera up there. Okay, yeah, dark green jerry cans. A little bit hard to tell with some of the shadows. I think I want to turn them. This. So that I could get the other edges. There we go. So I can make sure that I get the skinny sides. Cherry cans are done, so I'm going to throw a little bit of thinner in through my brush so that I can clean out that particular pigment of green. I got a little bit left over, but it's such a small amount. Just dump it out. Okay, and grab the thinner. And I'll just do a quick, I'm not going to do I'm not going to do a super thorough cleaning because I'm basically using the same color. I just need to clean this out. Run some thinner through it. Get rid of that. Kind of splash everywhere. Okay, that's good enough. I got green on my finger now. Ew, got a green finger. I'm supposed to be a green thumb. Anyway, that being done, take my little jerry cans off of here because I don't want to get overspray on them. Because I did get a little overspray on my helmets. My helmets are going to be this green, XF74. Just to add a little bit of variety that's kind of subtle. Just a little subtle change in the green tone or tinge or whatever you want to call it. Okay. Make sure our other green is out of there, and I'm just going to paint my little helmets a slightly different green. There we go. Our helmets are green. And that's done. I put way too much into there than I needed. So I will pour the excess back in here. So, and now I will clean my brush properly. I'll put these here. Slide these over. Those are all done now. So I will skip ahead for you guys who are watching on YouTube so you don't have to watch all this. You guys watching me live, the 2 or possibly 3 of you who are watching me live, you get to see this whole process. Because I can't skip ahead when I'm live, can I? Nope, can't. Here's my little brush. There we go. Cleaning up, cleaning up. I think that's about it. Just about it. Just about done. Needle cleaning. There we go. Needle clean. And that's it. All right. Okay, so that's done. So our helmets now nice and dry. They can be put aside here. They're all green now. I mean, they started out green, but I went and primered them black, so I had to paint them green again. So I'll change the camera and I'll show you the subtle difference. Okay. So here's a helmet. Okay. And then here's one of our jerry cans. the color doesn't look any different, does it? But it actually is very slightly, just like it is on our jars here. This is this, and this is this, right? Very slight difference. You can see when they're beside each other like this. You don't really notice very much in the hand, right? It's very, very subtle. But that's the idea. That was my point, is to make it subtle. Okay? And of course, very different from our wheel, right? Now you notice I didn't bother painting the bottom of them because they're going to be sitting down like this, and so it doesn't matter. They're going to sit on the model in such a fashion, something like that, and it's like this one. It's going to go back here like that. And yeah, you're never going to see the bottom of it, right? So it's going to sit like this, and so therefore it's just sitting like that, and it does you point out that it's a different color of the tank, and that's great. That's what we're going for, right? Just a slightly different color. So that's what I want to do. Okay, I think it is time to start painting some of our little things on there. I'll take the turret off here. Okay. I want to show you guys again the little fenders I made up. I put those on there, just like that. Tamiya's kit does not have fenders on it for some reason, but clearly the real tank has them, so I wanted to do those. I do still have to paint our road wheels. I got to paint the rubber on those. Okay, but I think for the rest of today, I want to focus on the handles and things for our shovels and our axe and things like that. And so I got to paint some wood. So we're going to start with khaki brown. It's kind of a darker brown. We're going to start with that, and then we'll do a little bit of lighter brown on top of it, and we'll go from there. So these paints I like to use a little brush, a little dish like that, and I'll grab this brush. Should work. I don't need a Q-tip, sorry. This brush should work. Good enough. I need to change my glasses so I can see detail a little bit better. So just a little bit in there. Your technique for painting wood is all up to you. Let's turn this around. Okay, so we have our handle for the shovel. But actually, the only part on the shovel that looks like it would be wood is this little part here. Right there. Our axe handle, of course, would be a wooden handle for sure. Trickiest part is, you know, if you paint these things before you actually attach them, it does make it a lot easier. But at the same time, it makes it a little harder to integrate these into the kit afterwards. Sledgehammer. It definitely has a wooden handle. This bar I don't think is wooden, I think that's metal. And our pry bars over here, I believe those are metal also. So that's going to be it for wood, right? So that's it. Now this paint is water-based, so that's cleaned up with water. What I do want to do though, is just do this. Because I want to get a lighter color. Looking at these two colors, this one is khaki brown and this one is yellow, sand yellow. But when you look at them on the lids, they're basically the same color. So they're kind of redundant. So I do need a lighter brown though. And so I'm going to use, let's compare this one. That's just a different tone. Here we go. Dark sand, yet it's more of a yellow, right? So let's get this out. It feels like I don't have any nut in this jar, and I should have a nut in there. Although Vallejo's paints, they don't seem to really settle. Like the pigment doesn't seem to settle. I think because they are so thick. And you have to kind of crack the thing off of it. These just slide in like that. And then I go drop. See, they're thick, right? There's a lot of pigment in there. Which is why Vallejo paints, I hate trying to spray paint them. There we go. See, that's a little bit too bright a yellow for what I'm going for on this. I want to go a little bit darker on it, so I'm going to mix these two a little bit. Add a little bit of this darker brown in there and get something sort of in between. I'm just going to do this and see what we get. There we go. Now we're getting some mixture. Still not really. Still pretty light. That's okay. It's just so much on my brush. Just wanted to kind of maybe highlight the edge a little bit. Like that. Just like that, just to highlight a little bit. Don't need to do a lot. Yeah, I think that's good. You probably can't tell at all what I did on the camera, and I apologize for that. Nice thing about that, I'm going to leave that and I can clean it up with water later. So I don't want to run off, because I want to do our metal parts of the tools. Now a lot of guys, they just do a dark gray, do like a German gray or something for the metal, and then do touch-ups with it, but I'm going to actually use gunmetal. I mean, you could use like dark, I know there's like a dark steel color and stuff like that. I'm going to use gunmetal, because we're going to be putting dust and everything on it anyway, and this will show that kind of metallic sheen through it anyway. With all the dust that's going to be put on this thing, a lot of this metal detail isn't even going to show through, because of how dusty and dirty this tank is. So the fact I'm painting this with metallic doesn't make that much difference right now, or it won't make that much difference in the end. I mean, just making sure I do get all the sides. These are three-dimensional parts after all. There we go. A great big pry bar thing is done. Do our pick handle. Sitting here patiently waiting for his turn. I just realized there is a section of the shovel handle that is wood. Now that I've painted it with this, I can see the detail. It just happens to be a very short little section, that's all. Okay. Got those painted. And now our little rods. Down the side here. Now those rods that go on the very back, I think those are gun cleaning rods. And I don't know if they are metal, if they should be painted metal or not. Okay, those are all done. I could do a few things like, I don't know, there's nothing really else to paint to pop out on this thing. See, our gun cleaning rods that are on the back here, I don't know if those are supposed to be metal or not. Or if they're just supposed to, I'm going to paint them metal. I don't know. I'm going to paint them metal because, well, because I don't know. So they're going to be metal. I've seen videos where Night Shift made his own versions of these because he didn't like the detail, and yeah, of course they come out looking fantastic. But I don't remember what color he painted them, or if he just left them the color of the tank. Mine are metal, okay? Mine are metal. So that's pretty much it for that detail painting. And so now, to clean up my brush, oh, one little detail, our little machine gun at the front. Little machine gun at the front needs a little bit of a metallic to it. It's almost like a bit of a wash right now. That extra piece of photo etch, that little piece of photo etch that I put on over around the barrel, really adds to the detail on it. I'll give it that. One of the pieces of photo etch that actually adds to the detail of this kit, that's actually visible. Now, one thing you can do, you can see there's all kinds of things you can do for adding chipping and little things like that, but I don't want to bother with that. One thing I do want to do is seal this all in with a clear coat. There are a few decals, okay, so there are a few decals on here that needs to be applied, which means I'm going to clear coat this whole thing with a gloss clear coat. You go, gloss? Why gloss? Because decals stick to gloss better. They just do, right? So I have I always keep my my glossy clear in there. TS13, just gloss clear, just regular clear. And yeah, I don't need to do the lower hull that badly. It's not that important. The important part is the upper. And because I've got little sections, I did paint it with the, the black that I used on here was kind of a gloss black, and so it's not quite conform. I don't have a nice uniform surface. So this, I want it all in one nice layer. If it's shiny, then the whole thing should be shiny. I'll seal in everything. Now, aircraft models obviously having a nice clear coat, a nice gloss coat to lay your decals down on is very important. Armor models, it's not that crucial. Now, why am I doing the turret then? Well, because in the grand scheme of things, as you lay down different layers of paint, it's all going to look different if you've got it all different everywhere else. So I want to have the same thing everywhere. Okay, so there we go. We've got a slightly shiny tank now. Oh, hello. I'm great. How are you? You kind of count me almost right when I'm kind of getting ready to finish up for the day. I do want to check my tracks and see how wet they are. My tracks appear to be dry now, but I'm getting to the point where I kind of need to get going here. I'm almost finished. I've got to do another layer of paint on my tracks, but I think I need to do that next time. Yeah, this is done. This layer of paint is finished. Next is going to be our next darker orange for the tracks. And that's basically going to be it for this. Yeah, sorry, Scott Garrett. I'm pretty much finishing up for the day. Unfortunately, what I'm going to do off camera is I'll paint the wheels all with their rubber, get the rubber on the wheels done. I'll just do that off camera and get that out of the way for next time so we don't have to deal with that next time. Yeah, so we're going to leave it like this. This is where I'm going to leave it for today, guys, because I got to get going here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Got a little bit done. That's good. I'm happy about that. Yeah, so this is where I'm going to leave it. We call it a day. I want you guys to check out that description box below, and you can follow me on Twitch. You can watch me live, talk to me just like Scott did a minute ago. And you'll see a link to my Instagram where I upload still pictures of everything I've built in the past. Take a few pictures of it every when I'm done, and we do that. So yeah, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I guess we'll catch you next time, Scott, and we'll see you all in the next one.